Ladies and gentlemen, I was delighted and am honoured that I've been given the opportunity to say a few words about the Kitchener camp this afternoon on such a very special occasion. My late father, Lothar Nelken, who had been stripped of his position as a judge by the Nazis and having been unable to gain a visa to join his mother and brother in Brazil, was lucky enough to obtain a visa for him to come to England, where he started a new life at the Kitchener camp. I was lucky that my father had told me about his experiences in Buchenwald concentration camp and the Kitchener camp, and his life during the war years in England, as many refugees unfortunately did not do so. It was purely by chance that I came across Claire Ungerson's book 4,000 Lives at a time when I'd found diaries that my late father had kept when he left Germany about his life in the Kitchener camp and his early years in England. I met up with Claire, showed her my father's diaries, and I was delighted when she told me that the diaries very much backed up what she had written in her book and wished that she had had them as an additional source when researching her book. It became clear to me that there must be several people like myself whose fathers had been at the Kitchener camp. What to do? I decided to write a letter to be placed in the Association of Jewish Refugees, AJR, monthly journal, to find out if there were like-minded individuals around with a similar interest in the Kitchener camp. Claire Weisenberg saw my letter and contacted me, as well as several others, and so we, together with Claire Ungerson, Adrienne Harris, and Paul Secher, founded the Kitchener Camp Descendants Group. We must now have a membership in excess of 50 people, and our membership includes members in Israel, the USA, Australia, and New Zealand. When we've had meetings in London and also trips to Sandwich in Kent, where the Kitchener camp was situated, and at one meeting we were welcomed by the mayor and had a reception in the town's Guildhall. Claire Weisenberg has done a wonderful job in setting up the Kitchener camp website and a comprehensive list of names, documents, photographs, letters and objects, etc. She also did a fantastic job in putting together our mobile exhibition, Leave to Land, the Kitchener Camp Rescue 1939, which was unveiled in January 2020 at the Jewish Museum here in London, to great acclaim, and which had attracted many visitors. We went to Sandwich and the Bell Hotel in particular, where many of our fathers would go for tea or a drink to recognize the Kitchener camp, with the Bell Hotel agreeing to put a blue plaque with the help of the AJR there to commemorate the camp. It reads, "A meeting place for Jewish refugees from the Kitchener camp, Richborough, Sandwich, 1939 to 1940. Several of us attended the unveiling ceremony, with some members coming from the USA, Australia and New Zealand, as well as TV crews. We have been hampered by COVID restrictions for the last 2 years. However, it was wonderful that the exhibition was unveiled and exhibited at the Wiener Library recently. We hope that educational and other institutions will wish to borrow it for display so that the Kitchener camp story will become known to a wider audience. We have become a special interest group of the AJR. It has been amazing to hear about the experiences of our members' families. I hope that we will continue to have get-togethers again in the future. I know that my late father maintained friendships with men who he had met at the camp for the rest of his life. Some connections have been amazing. For instance, Claire Weisenberg and I found out that both our late fathers have been members of the same Jewish student fraternity from university in Germany. I would like to conclude with a couple of quotes from my late father's diary, which gives an insight into his time there. As we heard earlier on, the Archbishop of Canterbury visited the camp. Monday, 9th of October 1939. The Archbishop of Canterbury comes. The hall is packed to the last seat. He gives a very good speech in English, which is easy to understand and is received with huge applause. The theme is sympathy, pride, and hope. Sympathy for us, pride in his nation that took us in, hope in a good future for us. He knows our troubles, that we'd lost our occupations, jobs, careers, and that our nation's lost the talent that we represent. He emphasized that he felt in his heart a deep sympathy for us, who had created a beautiful camp fellowship. He hoped that we would have a good future and be admitted as fellow workers. The Kitchener camp was not a closed camp, and therefore the residents were able to go to Sandwich and the surrounding areas, and they were largely accepted by the local residents. Friday, 28th of July. In the evening after dinner, another trip to Sandwich with two others. We go to a pub. I order my first English beer. It cost a small fortune and tastes different from German beer, but good. We'd hardly sat down at a table when an Englishman sent us another round. Finally, as this programme explains, it is impossible to list everyone who made Kitchener Camp a success. By honouring the tireless commitment of the May brothers and Ernest Joseph today, we're acknowledging the contributions of the many activists and refugees whose efforts established this remarkable sanctuary for victims of Nazism. Thank you.